Tarrant County Master Gardener Association has partnered with the Tarrant Regional Water District to encourage water conservation. TRWD maintains 4 area lakes and pipelines needed to provide surface water to local water treatment plants so they can clean that water to meet drinking standards for our communities. There are currently 2.3 million people living in Tarrant County, and this is expected to double over the next 50 years. At SaveTarrantWater.com, you can sign up for free weekly watering advice custom to your location. There's also an event calendar where you can find information about future classes and workshops. So be sure and check out SaveTarrantWater.com to sign up for their free services.
Hello, my name's Linda DiRocco. If you're in Italy, it's DiRocco. Anyway, I was in the class of 2020, and I've really enjoyed my master gardening. I'm learning so much still. I have worked professionally as an RN in ICU and surgery services and psychiatry for 35 years, and after I retired, I had a new life. It came to light one day that someone said, "What do you do with your vegetable garden?" And they said, "Oh, do you can?" I said, "No, I dehydrate it." The wonderful thing about dehydrating is that it lasts so long. Your your vegetable packs are good up to 10 years, as long as they are sealed correctly. Herbs, a little shorter lifetime because they're a little more sticky, but it's wonderful. So you can have fresh organic food year round, and it's just a lot of fun, and you can be very creative with it, as my son will tell you, because he found that great snacks came out of the dehydrator. My presentation is Dehydrating Your Harvest, and I chose this little cartoon because it reminded me of events that happened when my son was about that size. He grew up seeing me garden, and when he was a little baby, I put him in a wash tub out there with me, and then he got a little older. And of course, Calvin is saying, "Gosh, it sure looks like rain." And rain? What are you talking about? There isn't a cloud in the sky. He says, "You don't think it looks like rain?" "No," went back to work. "No, go away and stop being silly." So he sets up the sprinkler and turns it on me. And Nick actually did these things. Such a stinky boy. Okay, so the history of preserving food is very interesting because people, as long as history's been, has preserved food. Way back in the semi-arid areas here in North America, as well as over in the Middle Eastern European areas, they use sun drying. And they would simply put the food in between whatever type of reed mats they had available, put them out in the sun. Of course, somebody had to have duty to keep the flies away, and they preserved their food. Now, in the cold areas, they could use ice, which was readily available and easy to do. Then we go up to when the Greeks and the Romans were around, and they introduced honey as a way to preserve food. And this is where a lot of our compotes, preserves, these sorts of things are come from. Then we go forward to curing. They figured out if you use salt and or made a brine with water to soak things in, it would preserve food. It did 2 things. It kills bacteria, but it still had a relatively short storage life, and it took away nutrients, which wasn't great, but they didn't know that. Then we go forward to when refrigeration was invented, and that was in the late 1700s. And of course, it was only commercially used initially, and then introduced into the home use in the 1900s, which now we have all these wonderful refrigerators. Now, in 1800s, Napoleon Bonaparte invested money in a way he wanted to feed his troops healthier, better, have the food last longer. And he plugged money into research on canning, and it worked relatively well. Then in the late 1800s, Mr. Pasteur discovered the process of pasteurizing, which of course elongated food even more. Then we go into the 1900s. Dehydration, mechanical and non-mechanical, came into play. And of course our little squirrel is thankful for his carrot, even though it's whole. Now, then we go forward. A German inventor, Mr. Karl Busch. He is the one who initially discovered vacuum sealing. It was a way to send ready meals to the troops. As you notice, a lot of this progression is a way to supply troops. They first hit the markets in 1963, and we've had ongoing improvements since then. Actually, my first dehydrator I purchased about 40 years ago, and it's just recently died. So I've had a long time. I was early on in this. 1905, they played with irradiation in canned goods. It was low levels designed to kill bacteria. They did figure out how to use it commercially, but it took a little while. And then, of course, in the 1900s to present, we started using salts and sugars and spices as a way to preserve food. And then we started using vinegar, which of course it kills bacteria, it decreases enzymes, and we know it as pickling. So we all love pickle food, at least most of us. Okay, benefits of dehydration. You have better nutrition because it is straight from the garden, cleaned up, and into the dehydrator. So you can have fresh organic food year-round. There are no preservatives, which is great. Better for us health-wise. The storage is, I think, amazing. It only takes 1/10 of the original product size to store it. And so you have a lot less space from canned goods, no glass. So there's a lot of benefits to this process. The vacuum sealing part of it allows storage up to 10 years. Herbs are about 3 years just because their quality is more delicate and deteriorates after that time. Then you can be creative. My son loved this part. Some of his favorites was honeyed banana chips and you can make your own trail mix. You can make wonderful little hors d'oeuvres and different things. So you can have a lot of fun with it and figure out things that you and your family like. Okay, now we have types. Okay, you don't have to invest a huge amount of money to have a little dehydrator. The Cuisinart and Nescos are, at this point in time, the best low-cost ones. Now, the Excalibur, which is what I love, they do have small ones in a low range of 130 up to 450 for the larger 9 tray. And then of course they even have the really big ones, which was $1,000 and more dollars, but most of those are going to go into commercial uses. Okay. And then you have the real unique ones, the solar units. These can still be purchased from the Mother Earth site. So if you have no means or you just want to experiment, you can get one of these sun ovens and they do work. But you have to have an open space for these. you don't want to put it under your shade tree. You need just nice space for that. You also can use your kitchen oven. I would not do this in the summertime in this part of the country because, well, there's two things to it. Your ideal temperature is 125 degrees, and most ovens, the lowest is 200, so you have to crack the door open. But in the wintertime, it can be a nice way to add extra heat to the house. So, it's up to you. But it works. Okay. And then where you put them, now you do have to remember they put heat out, depending on the size. The small ones, your countertop ones, you can put in the home. Depending on where it is, if I were to have one in the house, I would kind of put it off to the sides so it's not creating a hot zone like in the kitchen where it's already hot. The big one, mine lives on the back patio with an additional exit fan because it puts out quite a bit of heat, but it does a beautiful job. And as I said, solar units have to be out in the open sun. Okay, what to dehydrate? Just about anything you want. Fruits, vegetables, you can make beef jerky, chicken jerky, whatever, deer jerky, whatever you want. Cheeses, you can do this. I tried it, but it was pretty messy because all the oils come out of the cheese, and I went through a huge amount of paper towels. So I don't want to do this again. Okay. All right, what not to preserve? Of course, liquids, your family pets, your family members. Not a good idea. Okay, so we're going to go look at the groupings, the types of foods you can do together. You don't have to have the same thing, especially in the big units, but you want to put like-minded things. Apples, they have a sturdy structure versus pineapples, lemons, they're more porous. So you don't want to put them together. But you can do things like tomatoes and tomatillos in the same one. You can put peppers because they're also vegetables. You just want them on the upper rack because the tomatoes are a little juicy and you don't want it dripping down on your peppers. Herbs are always done separate. They need a lower temperature. They take a little longer to dry. They're more delicate. So you don't ever want to put it with your regular vegetables. Now, getting ready to put your food in is two basic methods. You're going to have dipping, which is to prevent discoloration. They do make some commercial ones. You can also, I just use lemon juice for my apples. You just dip it in and onto the tray and bingo dingo, there you go. Blanching, you need, that's usually for things like carrots, broccoli, more structured, heavier structured vegetables is what that's for. Okay, times and temperatures. This is always very interesting. Now, everybody gets a nice book with their dehydrator, and there are guides in there that gives you details of the particular food, how long, all those sorts of things. Fruits are basically at 135. They vary in how long it takes. And also, you have to remember, like on my one on the patio, the outside weather affects it. So sometimes things take just a little bit longer if it's rainy. Vegetables are best at a little lower, 125. And like I said, they're variables in times. Jerky, it needs hotter unit, 165, and herbs are 115 to 125 degrees, delicate. Okay. Now storage, okay, you do not have to have a vacuum sealer, but I found that it is wonderful. You can use jars. You just have to make sure they are properly cleaned and that you have a good seal When I was using jars, I still gave them a water bath to make sure that rubber seal went down tight. That's just to make sure your food stays good. And of course, you can also can or freeze. Okay. Now, these are before and after shots. The one on the top left is tomatoes. And the one on the right, I took a picture of a variety of little things. The tomato tray that's on the left, there was three trays of that, and it fits into that one little tiny container that's in that grouping. Yeah, right there, all that fit in there. So as you can see, that's a lot less space. Your strawberries on the left at the bottom, you see how they look very different. They're still red, but they're very flat, and so they take up a lot less room. So you will have variables in this. Okay, now the basil, this I did not happen to have any dehydrated basil to show, but this is how it looks on the tray. And the other thing with basil, you do not want to pick it from the plant until you're ready to process it, because it will turn black within 24 hours. So that's a particular. Parsley's not so snickety, but the basil is. So it'll come out very nicely as long as you do that. The lower is black-eyed peas. This is just some tray. I have, of course, I always put it over my sink, and I give it an extra little spritz to be sure they're clean. On the left, these are processed black-eyed peas in little vac. I put in a half a pound because that's about all I cook at one time. And as you can see, I had 9 trays of black-eyed peas, and there they are on the right. So this is one of the reasons I love it. So, okay. Now, on the left, this is some parsley. This is where I had it set up on the tray before it went into the dehydrator. In the middle is what that same amount of parsley I put on a little cutting board, so it's real small, and then I vacuum sealed it on the right. And you can see it's square, but it's only 1/16 of an inch thick. So as you can see, in my little drawer that I keep my herbs, I can just, have my different pockets and labels, and then I got my herbs set. Down on the bottom on the left, there's a before and after on the left. These are little ancho peppers. And I put my ruler out to give you an idea of how the space help is, because you have the little packet that is only 3 inches square, and it's only a 1/4 inch thick. So this gives you a huge amount of storage space. And the one on the right is simply an assorted little scoop of peppers, how they can look. You can slice them, dice them, you can julienne them, however. I do an assortment in my processing because some things I like for hors d'oeuvres, and I'll do a half of a pepper. You can do that. And some of them I cube. It depends on what I'm going to use them for. So I make an assorted packaging. Okay, now preparation. Okay, steaming. We do a fair bit of steaming. As you can see, a lot of your vegetables, short steaming. Beets, they're a little bit different. You have to steam them until they're completely done. And then you completely cool them and peel them. And then you cut them down. I will either use my mandolin and do little thin slices. Sometimes I will shoestring them. The squashes and pumpkins are very interesting. You steam or bake them until they're tender. Then you scrape it out. And all of your dehydrators either come, or you can purchase a solid screen to make the leathers with. And those are real handy, like for pumpkin pies later, or squash soups, or whatever. And so you want to use that, because obviously if you put it on the other screens, they'll go through it. So obviously, but this is a very interesting process, and it works well. Summer squash, just your basic, it does not require steaming. You just slice it and put it on the tray. Other things are very basic, where you just wash them up good. You want to wash them thoroughly, everything, even if it's straight out of your garden, it's dirty out there. We want to be sure we're putting our food up clean. And then your manual that comes with your dehydrator, as I said before, it gives you the specifics for how thick of a slice you want, and the time it needs to be in there. The other thing to put, it's always good before you take your trays out, you want to check it to be sure it's actually dry. And there have been instances where I took trays out and it was hit and miss. I had some stuff completely dried and some stuff I had to kind of put in for a redo with the next batch. And that's okay. Now, to rehydrate, this is the fun part. I have some friends that they got a real kick out of me making soup one day, because I went in and I got all my different package of vegetables and stuff. I made my little stock, and I just opened these packets and put it in, and we sat around and we chit-chatted, and a couple hours later we had dinner. It was pretty cool. So, but there's, plan what you want. Most things need to be rehydrated overnight. So if you think, oh, I want to have, say, let's have ancho hors d'oeuvres with whatever we're going to have the next day. You take a little package of them, you put them in some water. You want to make sure they're covered. Let them sit overnight. Take them out the next day. Give them a nice little pat dry. If they're a little kind of wonky, you can always put them in the oven to kind of crisp up a tiny bit. And then you stuff them and you eat them, and they're really good. So, okay. Now, these are just little odds and bobs. Some of it I've already covered is the storage enhancement, and I want to reinforce. The herb packets are 1/16 to 1/8 thick. Veggie packs tend to be a 1/4 inch thick. Now, some of your fruits, like apples, they're never a 1/2 inch. It's never that thick, but they can be a little bit more. Now, and we already covered that you can get the solid sheets. Now, one thing that like in my little baby dehydrator that I brought today, I don't have solid sheets, but just a little tidbit, you can use the sheets, the paper, like you use for baking, and you can cut that down and it will work. So, because it will tolerate oven temperatures, so you can use that. Not wax paper, but the other one. So I thought. Now, other uses. This is something that I found very interesting, and I did try. You can raise your bread in there, because bread does best in an enclosed area. You just put it on the bottom rack, and you put it on low, and up it goes. Re-crisping. If you have stale chips, crackers, cereal, whatever, you can put it in there and it will be lovely by the time it comes out. It's a very amazing little process. They get stale because moisture gets in there. Make them dry again and you got nice snappy crackers again. Okay. All right. Now, and we did cover this before. If you use jars, it's imperative that you sterilize them. Because it's still your food. You want a very good seal on them. And it does work. Now, and the other thing I put, this is a picture of one side of my kitchen sink, because some of your vegetables, some of your fruits, strawberries, tomato, they leave a real sticky residue on your screens. And so all you want to do, like I use 7th generation. It's a nice mild soap, and you let them soak a little bit, and then you take that out, and then you can fold them over and pop them into your dishwasher. They work better if you fold them into 2 racks, because otherwise they get hung in the mechanism. Be sure you turn the heat off in the dishwasher so you don't melt them. Yes, very important. Okay, so that way you can keep them clean. And sometimes after you've used them a while, you just like, these just need to be cleaned up a little bit. So in my references that I use for this program, there is a website. It's from the Dehydrator Lab.com. It has very interesting information in there, more detailed than what I gave. The Harvest Made, which was my original dehydrator, that company is actually not in business anymore. Somebody bought them, I don't remember who. But the dehydrating guide, and then my Excalibur food dehydrating guide, and then my own work of 35 years. And I hope you've enjoyed this. I hope it's been helpful. And I love it, except when everything's going on full steam, because my kitchen is chaotic at that moment. But have fun. Well, I thought I would show you just some of my end product. This is, as I had told you, this is oregano. See how flat it is? Little packets. And I use my vacuum sealer to make little packets because you don't want a whole lot out at one time. This is 2 years old now, and it's going to be just as fresh as when I picked it off. Okay. All right. Sweet bell peppers, little skinny packet. Now, spinach makes a wonderful, there's a lovely Italian soup that is a spinach egg drop soup. I use it for this. It's beautiful. And as you can see, it's flatter than a flitter. So these are little Chinese peppers. I don't know if I'll ever use them. I haven't decided. These are little mushroom packs. You never know when you need a little bit of mushroom. You can take your thing, make sections, so when you use one part, then you can seal off the other 2 parts until you're ready to use them. So it makes it real handy in the kitchen. This is corn, as the year says 13 on it. It's still perfectly good. I use this in soups such as that. And it's got a rubber band because apparently I had opened it a little bit. I didn't want it going everywhere. All right, tomatoes. 15 was the bumper crop year. I am still using tomatoes from 2015. And this is one of the last packets. Perfectly good, beautiful, nice color when you rehydrate it. And if you add that to your pasta sauce, oh gosh, you think you've got fresh stuff. These little containers, what I do, whenever I open up a little pack, for convenience, I use these little containers by my stove area. This is some celery. This is a full stalk of celery that fit in this little container. And I did it in 2016. I'm still using it because I don't need it, but every now and then you need a little celery. Okay, and I brought my little book. This is my Excalibur book here. And an example, I said there are details of what you do. So this is a good example of what you would see in your book. And it will guide you with the specifics of what you're preparing. Okay, this is my little unit, my little Excalibur. As you see, it's got the little trays. So anyway, as you can see, the little screens, you can see through them. That's why I say you need something solid. I did bring, I couldn't think of parchment paper a while ago. This is parchment paper. I don't have a solid sheet on my little unit. I do for the big one. But you simply can cut it and lay it on there if you're going to make a leather. So if you have, you can puree, sometimes I'll puree strawberries or whatever fruit, or combine it and cook it down just a little. Lay it on here, pop it in here, and then I vacuum seal it. And whenever I want to make strudel, bingo dingo, I'm ready to go for my filler. So it's pretty handy. Okay, so anyway, I brought, this is like I said, this is the little unit. And this particular one has the controls on the top. Most of them do. It only holds about a quarter of what the big unit does. So, but I like it for herbs and for snacks. So I brought my apple. One of my favorite things, I will make apple snacks for myself and my son, because he loves it too. And so you want to, of course, tear down your apple a little bit there. We certainly don't want seeds. And on apples, you don't want a real thick cut, just kind of slender, kind of like this, and you will want that for regular dehydrating. In this case, we're going to do the little apple snack. Now, things that I found that are very lovely. Let me do another one here. I thank my dad for making me this little cutting board a long time ago. It's wonderful. And so things that work really great. Okay, you can take a little bit of, this is a local honey. I do buy from my local beekeepers. If you drizzle just a little on your apple, like so. And then it goes in there, and that makes a great snack. If you want a little kick, put a little chili powder on it. Pretty tasty. This is, I make my own chocolate syrup, so that's why it's in a jar, but everybody loves chocolate. This batch has quite a bit of vanilla in it, so it makes a interesting little flavor. You can add different flavors. Now, and the other thing that I found is pretty good is I like this raspberry chipotle sauce. It makes a great little snack, I am here to tell you. And these, you can, your friends are going to just think you have gone out and shot the moon down with these little hors d'oeuvres, Things that, with bananas, things that your kids like, if you put a little bit of peanut butter, chocolate, honey, like I said, my son liked the honeyed, one of the best. And, so you can be real creative, and they're not hard. So you can make these the day before. You just put it in here in this little bud here, and we'll put him right, slip him right in there. The small units, they have a little drop one, and then I put it down at 130 for this. Turn him on, he's not real noisy, and let it do its magic. And in about 20-30 minutes, we'll have snacks. Okay, it's been about 20 minutes now. If you're fixing this at home, you probably want to do this a little bit longer. The goal, you just take this out, the goal is to have it kind of sticky and stick to your fruit or whatever. We'll turn that off. But so you have these little snacks, and then you can put them on your tray. This is a chocolate one. Yum, wonderful. So anyway, so then you have something original to serve your guests, and it's easy to do, and it's good. So it's just one of the few things you can do. It's just a lot of fun, and you can create. People have different tastes. Enjoy it. Ta-da! That's it. Thank y'all.